What you're looking at right now is my second brain. It is specifically set up and designed to work with AI. So as I go in, you can see here, each of these different dots represents a different document, a different node. And what you can see here is that certain documents link all of these other documents together. These are the thousands of different notes, thousands of different documents, all of the different points, ideas, Airtable schemas, readmes, all the different files, which are all interrelated and how they connect together. You can see them organized here on the left-hand side. And this is all entirely accessible by AI, but I can limit both what AI can see and also what information leaves my computer. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jamie, and I've been working with AI now for the last few years, both personally, but also in other people's businesses. I produce all this content here online to try and get other people to start using AI because I genuinely think it is going to be the next big thing. It's already here, but it is going to get much, much bigger. So if you want to understand really easy, simple ways to get started, then follow this channel for more. So you've heard of Claude now, and maybe you've already heard of Obsidian too. Brilliant. But why do you actually need both Claude and Obsidian, and why can't you just carry on doing what you're doing? Well, the reality is that it stems to the fact that most of your documents are probably spread out something like you've got some notes in your Apple Notes, you then got documents from Google Docs or from clients. You've got things that are in PDFs, and maybe you've even got some things in Microsoft Office, Word, etc., PowerPoint. And all of that information is completely fractured, fragmented. Maybe you've got Claude and ChatGPT, and you are talking to both of them, but at the same time, they can't talk to each other. So you're having to start the same conversation all over again, and you're exporting and importing. And it just is becoming a complete headache. You may or may not have realized, but Claude now does have something that starts to help you, and they're two different things. So first of all is that Claude has got memory now. So does ChatGPT, so it does start to learn and remember certain bits of information about you. Within one chat, it's pretty good, so you can continue on with a single chat, and Claude generally does a pretty good job throughout that chat of remembering what's happened in that chat. But let's say, for example, you need to do a similar problem, but with a new client, or a similar problem, but on something slightly different. That becomes a problem if you can't just continue that same conversation all over again. Claude have iterated this solution. What they've then given you is something called projects, which is this little folder icon here. So we can click into projects and you can create a new project. Once you've created a new project, you've then got the opportunity to have memory, which will be shown here once you've had a few chats. And you can create and edit your instructions, and you can also add files. So things like example files or instructions, things that are important that you're going to use again and again. So this could be something like a demonstration file. It could be specific context from a meeting that you've already had. And you can add these files so that every new chat you have, you can then keep your chats completely separate. You can have a new chat and the chats will then start to populate all the way down here. So that's really good if you've got one specific conversation. But what happens if you have conversations about clients over here and then conversations about your work over here? But then you need to be able to understand your work in order to be able to deal with a client, or you perhaps need a specific client information in order to go back and do the work. The problem is that things start to overlap, and then you've got personal life and perhaps a completely separate project. All of a sudden, all of these things start to mount up, and they are kind of fragmented, but they're linked, but they're not quite the same thing. That is the problem that we have at the moment when it comes to AI, and particularly across different models as well. The solution that I have found is in creating files that are called Markdown files. And this is what a raw Markdown format file looks like. And what you'll notice is that there's lots of hashes and there's lots of dashes and there's lots of funny little markers and things like that, which don't necessarily make sense and aren't particularly pleasant to the human eye. But for a computer or for something like Obsidian, this is absolute gold dust because it allows it to understand. And the great thing is that AI also really likes Markdown files. So that file that I just showed you there, this is how it looks to AI or when you open it up in Obsidian. And you can now see that we've got a properties section, we've got nice clear headers, subheaders, we've got bold, we've got bullet points, we've got call out boxes with nice text and layout features and comments against it as well. Suddenly this looks a lot better and it looks much more readable to the human eye, but more importantly right now is that AI is able to read it and understand it very, very quickly. The reality is that this is simply a case of organizing by folders and by files lots of text-based content that AI finds very easy to read. You can absolutely add PDFs and images into your Obsidian Vault too. Although AI doesn't like to read these as nicely, it can be useful for the human reader. So how do we do this? Well, you only need three things. a place to keep everything worth remembering, a format that AI can actually read, and then the habit of saving things back. To set this up, you'll need to install Claude if you haven't already got Claude. I'm going to assume you have in this instance, but if you haven't, head over to claude.ai and download the app. You will need the paid subscription in order to be able to access Cowork and Claude Code. You then want to come to obsidian.md and you can just click on the Get Obsidian for macOS. It's an entirely free app. They do offer a subscription tier which allows you to sync into the cloud, but you don't need that for this instance. When you first come into Obsidian and launch it, you'll see here it gives you the option to create a new vault, and that's all you want to do. So go in here, create, choose a vault name. I use Demo Vault for this one, and pick a location. You can either pick a location which is just local on your hard drive, or if you want the portability and the backup, you can choose something like Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox. You then want to click create, and you'll then be left with a vault which looks a little bit like this. On the left-hand side, you've got the file browser. In the middle, you've got the file viewer. And then on the right-hand side is the graph view. We can close the graph view down because it's not really that important to start with. And over on the left-hand side here, we've now got essentially an empty vault. If we did want to create a new file, I can then do demo file. And I can say here is a demo file. And if you wanted to, you could absolutely edit this to your heart's content manually. Or if we wanted to, we could create a directory, demo directory, and we could add the demo file into the demo directory. So you can see how this could become powerful because we might add a work directory here, and then we could add work files into this directory. We'd then add a personal file here, and we could go on and do all kinds of things. We could then have a project one for the first project within our work. So then suddenly you've got all of these kind of structures. You can do this manually yourself, but that's not the value of this app. The value of the app is that we get AI to do all of this for us. Once we've set up our Obsidian Vault, the next thing we want to do is come back into Claude, and we want to choose on the top here, instead of chat, we want to come across to Cowork. Now, Cowork is like chat, but within a specific directory. So here we can now choose work in a project. So we can click on here and we can choose either a project and create a new project. And I would recommend you doing that. But even if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can then just choose a folder and you want to choose the Obsidian Vault. So you can see I've created this demo vault here. I haven't put it into my Google Drive just for this demo, but I would obviously do if I actually want to keep it properly. And we can then choose to open it, and we're going to choose either allow or always allow, depending on your preference and risk tolerance. Now Claude will be able to see all the files, all the directories, and everything that is in that Obsidian Vault, and we'll be able to help you. So if we now ask it to do something. So what I'm going to do now is show you side by side, and what you can see here is we've got our Claude open on the left hand side here, and we've got the Obsidian Vault, and this is just really for your understanding and visibility as a human. You don't have to leave this open if you don't want it to be open. You can just work directly with Claude. So the first thing I'm going to just ask Claude to do is just think about how to set up this vault properly. And I'm just going to ask it to set up some template files and a generically useful structure which I can work with in future. All these prompts that I'm using here are available in the guide. If you want the guide, just click on the link in the description below this video. And what you can see now is on the left hand side it's thinking, and on the right hand side it's going to start providing some stuff. And you can see here we've got inbox, notes, sources, and Claude, and it's starting to build out a structure for us. Now it's asking for permission, and you can see here it wants to permanently delete some files. Now it's up to you whether you trust it to do that or not. In this instance, because it's a demonstration, I'm just going to click allow and see what happens. And you can see it's now cleaned up all of those demonstration files that I created because it could see they were empty and there wasn't any value to them. And you can see here now that it's been working away, and up here we've got Demo Vault 1 where we've got instructions, start here and readme. You can see the readme is over here, and we can click on it and then we can actually view and understand what's happening. And we've also got a start here file, and that is in essence the beginning of this process. Next up, I'm going to show you how you can import files using Obsidian's extensions. Back in Obsidian, we want to go into settings, and you want to come here to the community plugins section and turn on community plugins. You then want to browse the plugins, and we want to search for Importer by Obsidian. If we click this here and we can click install and then enable, you can now see on the left hand side we've got a new icon just at the bottom of our other icons, and we can click it, and you can now see we've got an option from Apple Notes, from CSV files, from HTML, from Google Keep, from Notion, from Bear, Apple Journal, Evernote. Any of those that you have files in already, you can absolutely import them in one go. If you're not sure about how to do something, you can always go and talk to Claude, and that's the power you've now got. However, if I want to just take my Apple Notes, I can do that here, and I can then choose import. It will then open my Apple Notes from my computer, and I can then choose open. And you can see that I've now got 777 notes imported, 117 attachments, and 40 have failed. I can live with 14 failed out of all of those because now I've got them all organized in a way that Claude is able to access them if I want to give Claude allowance. Another really useful plugin for Obsidian is the web clipper. And we can add this to Chrome by going to obsidian.md/clipper and clicking add to Chrome, and then add to Chrome again and add extension. This now gives you the extension in your extension bar up here. And let's say, for example, that you come across an article that you find really interesting, like the fact that Anthropic have just released Claude managed agents and they're able to now get to production 10 times faster. We can come up to the icon up here and we can choose add to Obsidian. That immediately throws the entire article, links, and importantly, all the properties into our Obsidian. And you can see here it's now in the clippings folder and we've got this organized. We can then come back into our Claude and we can say, we can ask it any questions about this. We can ask it to, for example, make us a video, a script. We could ask it to make us an article. We could do whatever we want within that piece of information. Everything I've shown you so far is set up. It's one evening's work, maybe not even that much time. But the thing that actually makes the system powerful is one habit. When you finish a conversation with Claude and there's something worth keeping, you say, save that as a note in my vault, wherever it makes sense. And that's it. You don't decide where it goes and you don't name it. You don't organize anything. Claude decides. Sometimes it'll get it wrong and then you need to tell it and it'll move things. What you can also ask it to do is create instructions for itself in the future. So for example, if you've got a work directory, you might want it to keep notes about your work style, your language style, your preferences, your style guide, your brand guide, for example, what colors you use, what fonts you use. All that information can reside inside your Obsidian Vault and you can update it and iterate it as you go. If you spot that Claude's doing something on a regular basis that isn't quite right, you can add that to the Obsidian Vault. Yes, absolutely, your agents file or your Claude.md, for those of you that use those files, they are absolutely vital to be updated as well, but your Obsidian Vault persists across any conversation that you have. It works both with Claude Code, Cowork. It works with both Claude Code and Cowork, and so it allows you to use the desktop app or in the command line interface. I would actually encourage you to try not to open Obsidian to tidy things up, and don't try and manually rearrange the folders. Don't worry about tags or categories or a perfect system. Just keep feeding the vault and let Claude keep it organized. You could even add a guide that says don't delete anything, only reorganize it. That way you know you're never going to lose your content, it's just going to be reorganized and perhaps deprioritized. The reality is in week 1, your vault's got a few files and Claude's answers are slightly better, but not dramatically. By week 4, you've probably got 50 files. Claude starts referencing things you forgot you'd saved. Your connections appear between notes you didn't even link yourself. And by week 12, you've got 200 files. Claude's first answer to any question is better than anything it could have given you on day 1. Because it's answering from your content, not generic training. You specifically become the most valuable part of the system, not the tool. Your accumulated knowledge and decisions. Organized and compounding. Don't overthink this. Just get started today. Download Claude, download Obsidian, create a new vault and show Claude how to do it. Use the importer and import all of your different notes into the Obsidian Vault. Get Claude to organize them, categorize them, and give as much data as you can. Get it to ask you questions about what's important and what's not important, about what's current and what's not current. Then, every time you use Claude, every conversation you have, ensure that you ask it to update the files as it goes. Let me know in the comments if you've already tried this and what success you're having.